My Nightmare EP is out now. That feels so good to say. What's going on, guys? Welcome to this video. I wanted to take this opportunity to basically give a little bit of, I guess, a behind the album kind of thing. Just kind of talk about the album that I just dropped, the EP, My Nightmare, which has been a long time coming, honestly. If you guys have been following my music for a while, you'll probably recognize at least 2 or 3 of these songs on this EP. Excuse me. 2 of them are a little bit newer, but I'm really excited to finally drop something that was like professionally done. You know what I mean? Because for the longest time, I've only just kind of posted stuff here on YouTube and all that good stuff. And it's feels really crazy to finally drop something that's like actually recorded and mixed and mastered for the purpose of high quality I guess audio, if you will. So again, this is just something that I just never got around to doing. Throughout all of these years, I've come close a couple times to doing something, but most of the time it was just kind of either I did it amateurly on my own, or it was just something that fell through the cracks. For example, like with one of my old bands, we were going to record at least an EP or something, and that just kind of fell through the cracks, and the whole band just kind of split up at some point. So just that didn't work out either. So yeah, so it's kind of weird to think that I've been playing music, I've been posting music, creating music for so long, yet it took me this long to finally post something. So again, hold on. Let me not get too ahead of myself. Maybe some of you guys don't know who I am, and you're watching this. Maybe you somehow stumbled across this video, or my EP, and you're kind of curious, what this is all about, who I am. So okay, so I have a YouTube channel called JoshLMusic, right? And that's basically where I've posted a variety of things between covers and original music for the longest time, since probably, I think it was like 2009. And I've been a little bit kind of off the grid with that. The past couple of years, I haven't been posting as frequently. It's been kind of one of those things where I post maybe a new video every month or couple months. It's been very inconsistent, and that kind of all started when my health kind of went down the drain. I don't have the best health. That's kind of its own story. I don't want to get too deep into that in and of itself, but basically I got diagnosed with lupus a few years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I can't remember, man. Time flies. It's crazy. Excuse me. And so basically I don't know, things have just been harder to get done. And ever since then, I also started, creating a lot of video game content on YouTube, like gaming videos, like Let's Plays and everything like that. So if you're ever interested in that, by the way, that's youtube.com/JSkeldon. I also have a Nintendo one called J Skeldon's Nintendo World. So I have 2 gaming channels. So that's kind of been a heavy focus of mine, because with lupus and stuff, I just kind of basically, I don't have a lot of energy. So I can't, it's again, a little bit more difficult to get certain things done, and all that good stuff. And because I've been so focused on the gaming content, because that feels like, one of the few things I've been able to do with all this, this crazy health stuff. I don't know. I just, I guess I haven't posted as much videos. And then the past year has been, the period of time where I've been working on this EP, My Nightmare. So if you're unaware, I just dropped an EP called My Nightmare, and there's 3 songs on it that were written a long time ago. You can actually go back on my JoshLMusic channel. This video right here is going to actually be posted on all these, so 7 minutes after, and my JoshLMusic channel. So I'll explain what 7 minutes after is in just a second. But what was I saying? I completely lost my train of thought. Let's just talk about the name then. So for those wondering, you're probably wondering, who is 7 minutes after? It's literally just me. It's just me. It's not a full band. I know it probably sounds like a band. That was kind of the idea behind it, I guess, is that I didn't want it to sound just kind of like a solo thing where it's just like my name. I feel like too many people do that. Especially in the industry, there's just like everybody's calling themselves by their own name. And J Skeldon's been kind of like a nickname that I've went by for so long, which the funny thing about that name is that it originally started as supposed to being like a stage name, like for my music. And and then it kind of morphed into being like something that I'm known by for my gaming content. So I was like, well, if I call myself J Skeldon, is that going to kind of, is that going to confuse things between my gaming stuff and my music stuff? I mean, no matter what, my nickname is always J Skeldon, gaming, music, no matter what I do. But at the end of the day, I wanted, I guess, a unique name specifically to release original music under that wasn't just my name. So, the JoshLMusic stuff is going to be kind of more for, posting videos, covers and stuff like that, but to release, like professionally recorded kind of music, high quality kind of stuff like that. Albums, EPs. I'm going to be releasing that stuff under 7 minutes after, which is a name in and of itself that I came up with. So okay, basically the idea behind 7 minutes after. I'm actually going to go here and pull it up just so I make sure that I actually explain it right, because even though it's a name I came up with, I want to make sure that I get the story accurate because it's based on a story. And so, okay, let me backtrack. So I'm a big 21 Pilots, 20 Pilots. Did I say 20 Pilots? I don't know what I said. I'm a big 21 Pilots fan. And I love that their name came from something that has meaning to Tyler Joseph. And so I'm like, man, I want, like, if I'm going to have a name, I want something that means something, right? I don't just want something that's just like, it is what it is. By the way, if you see me looking off to the side, if you're, watching this on YouTube, it's because I'm trying to look for the story here as I'm speaking to you guys. So I wanted something that wasn't just, meaningless, right? Or it wasn't just a cool name. And so I just started looking up like all these different things. I don't know how I even came across this, but I just started looking up like different kinds of stories and history and stuff. And I came across this one story. Again, I have no idea how I came across it. And I don't know, like, all the context around it besides the story specifically. But it's the Soham, is that how you pronounce it? Railway explosion, which happened on June 2nd, 1944, just before D-Day. Basically, there were two people, driver Benjamin Gimbert and his fireman James Nightall. They were in charge of a freight train that was delivering bombs to the USAF in White-Colne, Essex, UK. As they approached the village of Soham in Cambridgeshire, Benjamin actually realized that the wagon coupled directly behind the locomotive was on fire. Obviously, that's not a good thing. What's crazy about that is the train was carrying tons of explosives. So he stopped the train. And James came down from the footplate to uncouple the blazing wagon. They were only about 420 feet away from the station of Soham, so they attempted to ditch the wagon in the open countryside before the bombs exploded, because obviously if they got closer to, I guess the village, the town or whatever, or the station, a lot more people would have got hurt and injured. But basically what happened is that they failed. The car exploded and threw Benjamin almost 600 feet away. It killed two other railway workers. It flattened the station building, so it did. I guess it wasn't in close enough proximity to do some damage, but it could have been a lot worse, if they're closer to, I guess, the main town or whatnot. And anyways, the crater explosion actually created a 20 feet deep crater, which is absolutely insane. Both Benjamin and James were awarded the George Cross, but I believe it was James. I think it was James that died. I have the story written down, but for some reason I have the story mixed up because I have like various different sources from it. So Gimbert started to draw the wagon away. Had moved it 140 yards. Hold on here. I'm trying to find exactly where I wrote this part. So who survived here? Gimbert was badly injured. Okay, so it was Gimbert. Gimbert was badly injured, but he survived. Which was absolutely insane to think about it, because that's a crazy explosion. I think it was Nightall, the one that was actually the one that managed to uncouple the what do you call it? The train cart, I guess, because he couldn't do it from the side that they were on, which would have, I guess, made it so they would have probably both survived. So he had to go on the other side, which ended up making him, I guess, trapped with the fiery cart and explosives. I'm pretty sure that's what happened, if I remember correctly. Anyways, the point of the story is that from the moment that they seen this fire to the moment that the explosion went off, there was about 7 minutes in between that section, give or take. So, this estimate seems to be reasonable based on, like, I guess, times that things were recorded. Again, it's not maybe 100% accurate, but it's a roughly 7 minutes. So the whole idea of 7 minutes after is that 7 minutes after they realized the cart was on fire is when the explosion went off. And I think the whole concept behind the name is just a reminder, first of all, of putting others before yourself. Like, that was a heroic act of them, especially James, to basically sacrifice himself to save as many people as possible. And like I said, if the train would have kept going, it would have been very disastrous. So the combination of the two working together, very heroic on both their parts, and saved a lot of people. And again, excuse me, again, I just feel like that's a good illustration of putting others before yourself, being humble, laying down your own life for someone else, even if it comes to that, which I think is another kind of parallel representation of what Christ did in the Bible. And so I think it's just kind of a mixture of things, to remind you that, first of all, life is short. Life is fast. It doesn't matter how long you live. You could live till you're 100 years old. It's still 100 years is going to go by pretty quick. In the grand picture of things, time flies. It really does. So, doesn't, whatever age you live till, time flies by. Cherish every single moment. Don't live your life in bitterness, or don't live your life in like strife or whatever. Obviously, you're gonna have disagreements with people. You might even debate things with people. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like actual, resentment against people, bitterness against people. You don't want to live your life like that. You don't want to live your life with, not being on good terms, especially with those that you love, and even your enemies. You don't want to live holding resentment and bitterness against anyone. It doesn't mean you have to be, cool with them necessarily. But that's just not. It's just toxic to your own self, to your own heart, and to your own soul. So, so I guess the whole idea behind the name given from that story is just, at least for me, is to remind myself that, like I said, life is short, to remind me of the parallel sacrifice that Christ did on the cross for a sinner like me, to just keep all those things in mind, to try to remind yourself to put others before yourself, because we're, especially today, nowadays, we're all so much about ourselves. You know what I mean? It's all about me, all the time. And there's a lot of pride in us, and we're not humble enough. So, obviously, it's not something I nail perfect, but that's something that I strive for, right? I want humility over pride. I want, those things that are good over those things that are, kind of nasty, I guess, not very good. So yeah, so that's kind of how the name kind of came up. So that's what it means to me. And there's that kind of huge picture and huge story behind it. So hopefully I did a good job at explaining that. I took a lot longer explaining that than I meant to. So let's talk about the actual songs and the album and the process really quick. You guys may be wondering about that. So I started recording it December 2019, and the whole idea was like, man, I'm in my late 20s now. I still haven't published any professionally recorded music, any albums or anything like that. I got to get an album out. I've seen various friends, putting out professionally recorded music themselves. I'm like, man, I got to do the same, because I've had some of these songs for a long time, and I've wanted to make an album out of them. So the initial idea was to create a full-length album. So if you've been around the channel long enough, you probably know that I have, at least from what you guys have seen, I have enough songs for a full-length album. I have many, many more songs you haven't even heard, which I hope to release in the future. But I was like, man, I can make a whole album. And there's a bunch of songs that I have from like back in the day, excuse me, like, Screaming on the Inside or Don't Let Go, for example, if you guys remember those songs, that I wanted to put on an album. But I was like, you know what? This is kind of like new to me. I'm going to start by doing an EP, something a little bit shorter. So I split kind of, the 10 main songs that I had. I probably could have pushed it to 12, but I have like 10 main songs where I'm like, okay, these are songs that like I'm pretty confident in. Excuse me. So I split that in half. and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna start off with this My Nightmare EP. I'm gonna call it My Nightmare. It's gonna have the song My Nightmare on it, which is probably one of the only songs that I feel like may translate better with a full band, but I think it still works acoustically. So this is an acoustic album, of course. I've have a lot of acoustic songs. I want to publish those first, and then I have other genres too. We'll get into that in a second. So My Nightmare, Here to Stay, which I wrote a long time ago as well. I'm talking about years ago, years and years, like probably 10 years plus, probably more than 10 years actually at this point, maybe 12 or 13 years. My Nightmare, Here to Stay, and then So Far Gone. Those are three that you probably have heard of if you've been following my JoshLMusic channel for a while. So those songs, I'm like, I'll take those songs, and then I had two new songs that I wrote. So there was one called Legend, and there was one called I'm Not Okay Tonight. The whole idea behind those two songs, well, okay, so I'm Not Okay, I felt like fit the theme. That song wasn't entirely done by the time I started recording last year, so I had to finish it off. Legend was actually like, now I hate saying sometimes what like songs are about, because I don't like to make them too specific, because I feel like, if I don't say what they're about, then it's easier to relate to your own situation. But Legend was one that I wrote out of the process and feelings of losing my grandpa recently, who I called Pappy. And I think that was like probably the first time I lost an actual family member. I've lost, friends and things like that who, for example, Here to Stay and So Far Gone are two songs that are based off of friends that I lost in various ways. They're no longer with us. But this one was based on a family member, and that was very new to me. And so it has a very progressive set of emotions, I feel like. So the first half of the song sounds completely different than the second half of the song. The first half of the song, kind of starts off with, just kind of, I guess, remembering the person and saying like, I guess this is my goodbye, right? And then it goes into like this sort of like little bridge where it's the only song I used like synths for, and I used some, strings like violins and cellos and stuff. Not a real one, unfortunately. It's through like, MIDI stuff, right? Using a keyboard. So I added all that to convey more emotion. And then it goes into like this last section, which is basically thanking the person for the memories, for the things that they've done for you, whatever that is. In my case, you can hear it in the song. But yeah, but the thing about Legend is like I say with my songs is I feel like, now it's something obviously I don't want to think about, but I feel like if I ever lost another family member, I could, probably apply this song to, other various family members as well, because it would be the same. I'd probably feel very similar. So that's why, like, sometimes I don't like necessarily always, pinpointing what a song is. So that's kind of how that song came to be. So that's why Legend and I'm Not Okay Tonight is actually a little bit more fresh. I'm Not Okay Tonight was kind of a concept I had of the idea that sometimes as people, we tell people around us that we're okay. We kind of put on this fake kind of face, this fake show, like we're better than we are sometimes, and it's okay to admit when you're not okay. It's okay to admit when you're just, you're not good. And so people can pray for you, or they can be there for you, or they can help encourage you, and or whatever else, but the point is it's like we have this almost idea that it's like, you don't want to be negative, right? That's this kind of whole kind of thing, right? In society, I feel like, in culture, where it's like, don't be negative. And obviously there's obviously a balance, right? You don't want to cross the line where at this point you're carrying it on. Like, how do I explain what I'm trying to say? There's a balance of obviously not being okay, but at the same time, you don't want to, I guess, not I don't know if pity yourself is the right phrasing. I don't want, that kind of sounds maybe harsher than it needs to be. Hopefully you get what I'm trying to say. I'm really not sure what kind of phrasing to use for that, but basically, you know, like there's a balance. There's a balance to everything, right? You have your grieving process, and there's moments where you're not okay, but at the same time, you know, you have to work towards, you know, getting up and continuing and pushing forward and not dwelling that either. But there is like a time for mourning, a time for grieving, a time for not being okay, right? I guess that's what I'm trying to say, if that makes sense. And so, you know, it is okay. You don't have to pretend like you're always fine, especially with social media and stuff. People like have, you know, they show you what they want you to see of their lives, which is obviously only the good. You never see the bad. And so it's easy to look at all these different people on social media and be like, oh, look at their lives. Their lives are great, you know, and then you feel even more miserable about yours or whatever, which again, I guess is kind of maybe kind of going into that pitying yourself thing. So you got to be careful with that too. You got to tackle every situation in and of itself, I think, right? So you got to, you know, like I said, there's a time for grieving, there's a time for mourning, but you also have to move forward. You also have to, you know, get up off the floor, for lack of a better word, and keep pressing on, and all that good stuff. And you don't have to fake like, you know, you're just 100% positive all the time either. It's okay to be like, okay, you know, I'm not feeling well, you know, whether it's physically or mentally or emotionally or whatever it is, you know, that's not a bad thing, you know, just because people say like, don't be negative, don't be negative, don't be negative. It's a balancing act. Am I making sense? Anyways, I don't want to drag that on longer than I have to, but, wow, I just ranted on that for quite a few minutes. I'm sorry. Anyways, the point is, that's where that song came out about. And then it kind of ends though on a glimmer of hope, because right, the whole thing is like, I'll tell you that I'm fine, even though I'm losing my mind kind of thing. That's the main chorus. But then the final words is, I promise I'll be okay. So it's kind of like that glimmer of hope where it's like, you're admitting you're not okay. You're admitting you're going through a hard time. But at the end of it all, you're like, you know, but I know that in the end, I will be okay. I'll push forward. You know, by God's grace, I'll pick myself up and I'll keep going. And I'll keep, again, moving forward. So, yeah, that's kind of the whole idea and concept of that song. And then My Nightmare is kind of just like generic kind of idea of going through a situation that feels like a nightmare, which is why the EP is called My Nightmare, because it kind of encompasses a bunch of situations that kind of feel dark and feel like a nightmare, which kind of, you know, goes into the album artwork as well, which, by the way, just quick couple shout outs for the album artwork. Patricia Taylor on Instagram did the art. She absolutely killed it, did an amazing job. I freaking love how it turned out. And then Hillside Audio mixed it. They did an amazing job. Incredible job. And then Scott Middleton mastered it. And again, he did an amazing and an incredible job as well. So I just wanted to kind of quickly give those shout outs to people that were involved in this process. And then the recording process was just me from home. Honestly, I just kind of took my my Mac through Logic Pro and used like a TLM 102 microphone that I just bought before starting the recording process. It was like November of 2019. That microphone is usually pretty expensive. It was on sale for like actually a few $100 off. It was crazy. So I was like, yo, I got to pull the trigger because I heard great things about that mic. And I really love how that mic kind of suits acoustic instruments and how it just suits my voice personally. I really like the tone that it has. So I feel like it was a good fit for, you know, for what I was trying to do. Obviously I have this mic here, which is the Shure SM7B, but that's not kind of the microphone I wanted to use for a song like this, because this is a dynamic mic. I feel like it doesn't capture all the details in your voice as well as a condenser mic. So that's why I didn't want to use this mic specifically for the recording process. But yeah, I just recorded it from home. I took some of these parts, man. I'm really like OCD with some stuff. Like there's a lot of parts, a lot of takes that I had that like I could have used, and you guys probably would have been like, that sounds great. But I just didn't want to use them because I didn't like them. You know what I mean? That's the thing. Through this process, whether it was recording, mixing, whatever, I had to be completely like comfortable with what I was hearing. I knew that there was things that like it could fly and it would still sound great to most people, but I wanted it to sound great to me, because at the end of the day, I want to be able to listen to my own stuff and not you know, pull my hair out thinking, I should have done this different. And there's still a few things where I'm like, probably should have done this different, but you know, you're always going to have that. But what I mean is that, you know, obviously I wanted to be as satisfied with it as I possibly could. Which I think is important with anything you're creating. So yeah, so I just recorded it from home. Some of these things I took, like, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, there's some parts where they were pretty good, but they just weren't exactly how I thought they should be. And they, like I said, I could have just used them, but I was like, no, I don't want to, because I don't like the way that kind of came off, you know, like a little guitar scale, right? Like a little guitar solo or something, you know, like in, I think it was in Legend, right? It was like do 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 or something like that. Stuff like that. It's just like maybe like the way I kind of flowed the notes, it just didn't feel as good to me as I wanted it to. So there was some stuff where I literally took 100 takes on, because I just like, I don't like it. I want it to be how I feel it should be, not just good enough, but you know, how I like it to be. And so yeah, that was a little bit kind of OCD on my part, or what's the word I'm looking for? I guess perfectionist. I'm a perfectionist in some ways. So yeah, I went super hard on that. So that was, you know, that got frustrating at times, because I was like, man, I'm not nailing it the way I want to nail it. So that's why, you know, it took me a little longer to record it. It's only 5 songs, but I mean, you got to think too, I wasn't recording 8 hours a day or anything either, right? I was mixing, you know, real life in there with, you know, the other stuff like gaming content I do. But I was recording, you know, pretty consistently, probably from December to February. You know, for three months, it took me from, you know, when I started to when I actually finished the recording process. And then at first I had this brilliant idea in my head. I'm just going to learn how to mix myself. Yeah. Okay. That was a joke. I started trying to like look up on how to, you know, EQ properly, and how to do this properly, and how to do that properly, and how to, you know, and I was like, you know what, this is not going to work. If I want it to sound really, really good, it's not going to work. So, a good buddy of mine, Brad, shout out to Brad. He told me about Hillside Audio, and that they, you know, he recommended them to me and said they were great, you know, at mixing and all this stuff. So I was like, all right, hit them up, and shout out to Cam from Hillside, who killed it, absolutely killed it on this mixing process, and the rest is history. So that's what happened. So yeah, I guess that's a little bit of behind the scenes, if you will, behind the album. I've dragged this video a lot longer than I intended to. I apologize, but if you really wanted a behind the scenes of, you know, what this album was, then now you have it. Now you're probably wondering, you mentioned you cut this album in half, right? So like I said, the reason for that is because I wanted to get music out sooner than later. Like I said, I was like, man, I'm in my late 20s. I want to get some stuff out before I'm hitting 30 here, man. You know. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to split this off into an EP. So the answer to maybe what some are wondering is yes, there is a plan for a second part to this. I'm literally calling it a part 2. It's not going to be called part 2. It's not going to be called My Nightmare Part 2. But what I'm saying is it's technically a part 2. It's a second chapter to the story. I feel like any music I put out is going to be kind of like a bigger story to it, right? Just kind of like a thread. So if you were to look at this story, this album, and these songs, if you look at the album artwork, for example, the idea story-wise is someone who has been through an absolute nightmare. They are now lost inside of this dark, foggy forest. It's around the October kind of month. It's kind of getting cold out. It's, you know, it's chilly. It's and you're just lost in this forest. Look at the album artwork, and that kind of tells the story in and of itself. But yeah, you're just lost, and you know, you're trying to find your way out, but it feels like you're spinning circles. It feels like you're constantly going forward, yet you keep coming back to this same, you know, spot in the forest, which is the album artwork, and you're just trying to find your way out, man. And you know, there's a little bit more to that, but I'm not gonna spoil too much. So there's kind of a story that I'm gonna be telling with each, you know, EP I release. But specific to this EP, this is kind of a part 1 to a full album. So whenever I get around to, I haven't even started recording the second one, so bear with me. It's probably gonna take at least a year and a half to get out, because, you know, with everything going on right now, makes it a little more tricky, especially I'm recording at home. I have 3 kids, so it kind of makes everything a little bit trickier. But again, shout out to my wife for being absolutely amazing during the recording process, for, helping, keep things quiet enough for long enough for me to be able to record this EP. So she's been amazing, super encouraging. My parents, who got me into music in the first place, they bought me my first drum kit when I was 9, my first guitar when I was 11. They've always encouraged me into music. They always listened to it. I can't tell you how many hours my mom would just, listen to me when I'd be like, hey, how does this sound? You want to listen to this? This and this and this. Back in the day, and, hearing the writing process of a lot of these songs back in the day, like Here to Stay, My Nightmare So Far Gone. So my parents, obviously I wouldn't be where I am without them. Obviously they've even outside of just the recording process or the writing process, they've been, crucial into just, teaching me the right things in life, just always caring, loving me, doing, just doing so much for me. So, my parents, my wife, my family, my kids, my close friends who, also, were, an encouragement throughout this process, or even throughout the years, who have just, always been good friends, had my back, whatever. Like I said, I wouldn't be the person or musician I am without all these key people. There's some friends who were a sounding board. My wife often came downstairs and listened to some of these songs. I sent them to my parents a couple times, except Legend. Excuse me. Legend was one that was special that I wanted to actually save until it was done to show them, which I think was worth it. They seem to love that one as well. So yeah, so just, to all these different people who have been instrumental in my life in various ways, I couldn't have done it without them. But like I was saying, there is going to be a part 2, so bear with me as I try to get that done. But the idea is, once this second EP comes out, if you put both EPs together, it'll create a full-length album, and that's kind of the idea behind it. So so I decided to, instead of releasing a full-length album, to split it off in 2 EPs, a part 1, a part 2. It's not going to be called My Nightmare Part 2. I already know the title of the next EP. I already know what the artwork's going to be. I already know what the song list is going to be. There's a couple songs, like I said, that are going to be on that next album, that next EP, that you've already heard on my JoshLMusic YouTube channel. Some of them that are old songs that I'm bringing back, obviously, to actually professionally record in high quality. So it's exciting, man. I cannot wait to get that second piece out, because I feel like the story is only half told, or at least this first part of the story. Because like I said, I have a bunch of other songs, different kind of genres and stuff that I want to touch into. These 2 EPs are acoustic, but I have some heavier stuff as well. It's more kind of like heavy rock, metal kind of style that I want to release at some point. And to me, it's like, there's no walls of genre. I write whatever I feel, whatever that genre is. If it's acoustic, it's acoustic. If it's alternative, if it's pop, if it's rock, if it's metal, whatever it is, I just write it and I love it. I have a bunch of songs I've written on the piano and written on the ukulele that I guess you could say are more influenced by like 21 Pilot style. So I have various songs that I want to release, various albums and EPs that I want to release in the future. So hopefully I can continue to do that. So anyways, I've dragged this on long enough. If you have any questions, even either about me or the music, the songs, the EP, the album, the future of music, my history of music, whatever else, leave them down in the comment section below, and I'll do my very best to reply to them. Again, I'll be posting this video both on the JoshLMusic page and the 7 Minutes After page. The 7 Minutes After being the official page where I'm only gonna post official, professionally recorded music there, and then my JoshLMusic stuff is kind of for like, if I post kind of more of just like playing a song like this, it's not really like, professionally recorded or whatever. It's just kind of more of like a cover or even original song where I'm just kind of performing in a live sense, live in front of the camera. So yeah, that's kind of that. Again, you can find links down in the description below for my other stuff. Twitter at JSkelton92 on Twitter. My gaming channels, like I said, youtube.com/JSkelton is my main gaming channel. Then I have JSkelton's Nintendo World, which is fully Nintendo based. So doing a lot of different stuff on the internet. Also have this new thing I've been kind of dabbling in called JSkelton Rants, which is kind of more of a podcast style thing, which I'm probably going to be posting this on that as well. So if you're listening to this on JSkelton Rants, go check out the music pages 7 minutes after, or JoshLMusic. Anyways, stay safe, stay well. I know it's been a crazy year, but I'm super glad that I can end the year with releasing this music and sharing it with you guys. And hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully you like it. And again, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section below. I think I covered pretty much everything. I'll have a whole kind of, special thanks and dedication down in the description if you want to read that, kind of, special thanks, and dedication of the EP, of course. So anyway, stay safe, stay well. I'll see you guys soon. And until the next one, my friends, what do I say? I usually say game on my gaming channel. Rock on. I don't know, man. It sounds kind of corny, doesn't it? But I don't know. I'll catch you guys later. Stay safe, stay well. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.